We have identified some very, very interesting anomalous type of aircraft.
Traffic is quite luminous and is exhibiting some non-ballistic motion, over.
Move very rapidly at any speed or whether any direction it wanted to go. Fly could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think it was?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over. Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
All right, folks. Well, welcome to another Anomaly-NOW episode. I'm sitting here trying to find our intro video, and I think it somehow got deleted after the streamathon when I was going through and deleting all of our media assets. Well, anyway, I'm Smiles Lewis with the Anomaly Archives Scientific Anomaly Institute 501c3 nonprofit here in Austin, Texas, and I'm here with my good friend Mark Jackson. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, good, Miles. Good. You have a lot of energy for somebody that just put on a month-long streamathon.
It's delirium contagion. Punch drunk. That's how I described it to a friend after that. After the first Saturday streamathon back November 21st, was I had not been sleeping much, and but you know it went really. All things considered, the past 5 weeks, 6 Saturday streamathons went amazingly well. I am so thankful to everybody who contributed, from the volunteers who helped in several aspects. Our friends Victor and Inita, who helped launch our our new merch store with the awesome artwork from Red Pill Junkie, to Victor helping me with those cool 80s retro video intros and everything else and so much else. And then, of course, all the speakers, all 20 plus speakers that we had present, as well as the filmmakers who let us screen their materials. And we did raise over half of our goal, just over $11,111 towards our total goal. And one last time for folks, we really are looking for help finding a new home. We have a great need for a new location as quick as possible. And so if you have any leads on affordable locations and quirky and weird locations for a strange anomalous archive here in Austin, Texas, send them our way. That's contact@anomalyarchives.org, or there's a phone number at the Anomaly Archives website where you can leave information on that. So, well, it's been a long time since we've had a chance to commiserate about the strange world we live in and the latest news articles. And we have, of course, our usual smattering of interesting things that we could share with our audience from the old Flipboard over there. You can find the link to the Flipboard at anomalyarchives.org. And there is just a ton of stuff that I've been flipping over there the past few weeks and months. But yeah, because of the streamathon, we refocused on promoting each week as a kind of a preview of the upcoming Saturday, and haven't had much chance to really dive into what all has been going on, which, as always, there's a smattering of new UFO reports. As often is the case, many of them not that impressive. This one here just came across my radar today. Silicon Valley technologist interested in Swiss UFO case. But honestly, you look at the footage and it just looks like all the classic imagery that most of us have seen living in urban environments of those searchlights playing on low cloud cover that, yeah, from a distance looks kind of weird and UFO-like, sort of, but nothing to get too excited about. But you turned me on to this article here from The Drive, which has been churning out a lot of really good UAP, the new term for UFOs, unidentified aerial phenomena. This one, the White House's planetary protection strategy, is about space invaders, but not the kind you think. And, we've discussed a lot on this show with your insights about this, the obvious incremental movement towards spacefaring, whether it be, all the different countries that are starting to try to emulate the things that we've done as Americans in the past, getting off this rock and exploring new worlds. What do you think of this Brett Tingley? Ooh, nice last name there. At The Drive.
Well, Brett is first order reporting. The Drive in general, let alone the two main authors for the War Zone, which is where some of this more UAP advanced, potentially suppressed or secret technologies comes out of that branch of the Drive. And Tingley, and then I forget the other guy's name. There's, like I said, there's two main guys. They're just a great resource. And you're right, they have given us a lot of good articles recently because they're tracking a lot of the stuff that's of importance to myself. And as you mentioned, the world seems to be rapidly moving into, this off-world, this off-world commerce, off-world exploration, certainly experimentation, rapid expansion in all those fronts. But, as you pointed out, the other nations of the world are, rapidly advancing their own space programs. They're trying to keep up with the U.S. In fact, that's basically what I think is motivating this particular article. And the idea that governments internationally are starting to plan for this larger, spacefaring race that we find ourselves on the precipice of right now. But specifically on this story, they're talking about the United States National Space Council. And yes, we had a National Space Council. Previously, it was part of the NASA Authorization Act here a few decades ago. But it actually, before Trump hadn't been funded, George Bush Sr. was the last one to actually fund the Space Council. And that's made up of Office of Science and Technology, some of the military branches, et cetera, et cetera. So what they've realized is recently with, for example, we've talked about the OSIRIS-REx mission where the U.S. landed and took a sample off of the asteroid Bennu, and we're bringing samples back to Earth. The Japanese recently got samples off of the asteroid Ryugu, and then China just recently brought back about 5 pounds of lunar material. So basically, we're piercing the veil of the atmosphere of the Earth, which is sort of our protective shell, as maybe asteroids and potentially biological, and we'll get to that, material from other planets, whether it's panspermia or whether that's ejecta material from colliding bodies in space, whatever it is, typically those things burn up in the atmosphere. So now we're getting material from outside the atmosphere, inside of our biosphere, through the technological umbrella by which we're harvesting all this stuff and bringing it back to Earth. And so they realized, hey, we got to really be careful about not contaminating our biosphere with potential biologic material from these other solar bodies. Now, as I was mentioning to you, Miles, this is very interesting. I kind of broke this down into 3 main categories. Is why are they worried, or how all of a sudden, why are we so worried about off-planet biology coming and making its way back to the Earth? So I started thinking about it in 3 baskets. One, it's sort of like fear mongering, where academics are kind of like the ATIP program. They're saying there could be a threat, we need to get funded, and then a bunch of professors get a bunch of grant money. Right? That's one possibility. Next possibility is that there's a statistical inevitability. So with the advancements of telescopes where we're finding all these exoplanets and exomoons, now we're saying, and I think NASA's come out and said, the probability is much more likely that there's life in the universe based on these new instruments and measurements, right? So there's a statistical probability that we might be coming up against. And then thirdly, which is very interesting, is that, Your conspiracy folks, if we could climb out on the branch a little bit, would say, no, we have some sort of confirmation that there is biological matter, either that's been detected directly or has actually been brought back to the Earth in one capacity or another. And that's actually driving the concern. So anyway, and there might be more options than that. So that's sort of the lens by which I was looking at this through. Now, this will segue a little bit, Miles, if I could just go on a little further about the space policy. In 1967, there was an international treaty signed, of which now almost 100 nations belong to. And this is a treaty of planetary studies, basically sending probes off into space and coming back. So this has been on our radar since the beginning of our space program. However, what's very interesting, and we talked about this previously, are the Artemis Accords. So the United States, looking back at this sort of antiquated 1967 treaty, we look at it, and it's a treaty, and I understand that Artemis are accords. There's a difference between treaties and accords, but basically, again, here a few shows ago before the fundraiser, we were talking about the Artemis Accords and the way that 8 nations, specifically the United States' most strategic international partners, your Japans, Germany's, France, etc., those 8 nations, our cohort, so to speak, we signed a very specific pact, the Artemis Accords, and that was the rules by which we were going to play nice in space with other nations. Of course, China and Russia, they weren't invited or decided not to sign those Artemis Accords here last year. But you can see where the United States now is trying to set the ground game, both with this, Trump rolling out the Space Force, then also these Artemis Accords, which are supplanting or less reorganizing the 1967 international treaty. So the commoditization of space, the militarization of space, the notion of mining and extracting material from off, exoplanets or exomoons. I mean, it is well underway, and it's going to take some very strong policy to avoid the very focus of this article, which is, no kidding, we are all living the COVID, viral environment. If we bring back some sort of a biological, microbe or virus or even RNA at its simplest gets into our biosphere, all bets are off, right? So we live at a precarious time where we're piercing the veil of our other, our sort of protective shield from the rest of the universe. Very interesting. Good article.
Well, I certainly encourage folks to go check that out. And this dovetails with so much. On a humorous note, there's this article about from The Guardian about H.G. Wells fans spot numerous errors on Royal Mint's new 2-pound coin. You can't really see it necessarily there very well, but it's supposed to represent elements from various H.G. Wells famous stories, including War of the Worlds, which of course famously had tripod 3-legged spacecraft that came down and were ultimately killed by our viral contagion affecting them. Anyway, the joke, of course, on this coin is, among other things that got wrong, is the tripod has 4 legs. But on more serious notes, there continues to be this mass of UFO and space exploration and the inevitability of contact or discovery of some extraterrestrial life in the news, ranging from the Houston Chronicle article about where did I see that? The Houston Chronicle ran an article about the new search for extraterrestrial life and how there are some private companies, and of course this comes on the heels of just weeks ago the really tragic footage of the famous Arecibo satellite radio transmitter receiver array plummeting after a cable broke that suspended part of the array. Just heartbreaking for those of us who grew up with that as this iconic image of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Meanwhile, there's just been so much in the news, including this. I think I have it actually right there. The Harvard professor says an alien visited in 2017, and more are coming. He's putting out this book that apparently focuses on that strange oblong object that came through our solar system in a very strange way that caused him and others to go, that's not natural. And who knows, but it got a lot of attention, and it got more people, I think, than ever had thought about this before, thinking about this idea of what's going to happen when this finally eventually happens, and could it possibly happen in our lifetime? A ton of other great UFO related, UAP related articles like this one, Radar and UAPs from Dr. David Clark's website. But one of the ones that also caught not just my attention, but everybody's, is this COVID bill includes 180-day countdown for Pentagon to make UFO disclosures. And first, I think I saw the headline from Fox News, which might cause many to dismiss it. But then within, where is that? There we go. But then the MSN.com and others start covering it. And sure enough, it's very interesting indeed. The briefing, it's basically calling for a briefing from the Director of National Intelligence after to consult with other top defense officials and spy chiefs to submit a report on UAP. And within the next 6 months, the briefing will cover, quote, observed airborne objects that have not been identified and feature detailed analyses of unidentified phenomena data collected by A, geospatial intelligence, B, SIGINT, signals intelligence, C, human intelligence, and D, measurement and signals intelligence. But again, so much of this has that ring of just being threat focused, as we've said, and so much of it seems easily dismissible in terms of is it just a gambit to get more funding for a military that in this case is looking to ramp up a new space force, a whole new branch. So hard to say, but it will be interesting. And then of course there's another thing that's been big in the news for the more hardcore UFO enthusiasts like ourselves is this news about the Tom DeLonge to the Stars Academy possibly breaking up the band, and some of the big boys from that, Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon, and maybe another fellow. I haven't really figured out, I haven't had the chance to dissect these articles, but from what I gather, they are maybe moving on to other UAP related organizations, and that for whatever reason they're going their separate ways. So it'll be interesting to watch to see what more develops in that regard. Obviously, I think a lot of people were, pardon the pun, putting all their eggs in one basket with their hopes for some kind of real disclosure coming from that sector, from this entertainment company that was ostensibly trying to act as a way for people within the secret space program or these known black budget programs to try to bring their information out into the light of day. But tons of other great news articles over at the Flipboard. But yeah, got to check out that COVID bill. Includes 108 countdown to UFO disclosure, and this Harvard professor speculating about Oumuamua, I think is the name of that thing, that strange oblong object that whizzed through the solar system. Was it a year? Or was it 2 years ago? Gosh, time's flying. Ton of other great articles. Another article about geoengineers inch closer to sun dimming balloon test. Of course, we've talked about these ideas of trying to affect some sort of climate change to counteract rising global temperatures through geoengineering, dimming the sun by seeding the atmosphere. I think we both have expressed our disdain for such potentially dangerous paths that some folks seem willing to entertain to go down towards a solution to that perceived problem. Meanwhile, another bunch of articles, including, what was the one I was really... there's a link to a video called the Dream Telepathy and Out-of-Body Experience that, to go away from the UFO angle briefly, that I would highly recommend folks check out. I am a longtime fan of parapsychological research, and one of the areas that's always fascinated me, of course, is the data that supports the idea that altered states of consciousness, aka, drug-induced altered states, or light and sound, like staring at a flickering light, altered states, or the altered state that we all experience on a daily basis, the dream time, and how these states seem to be very conducive to anomalous cognition, aka ESP, psi, PSI, and other types of remote perception. And the particular video goes into a lot of that. I myself, having had in high school what I've described as a dream switching experience with my best friend, where one night when I was in Houston and he was here in Austin, he had my dream and I had his. I won't go into that story right now, but suffice to say, it was a very personal experience that convinced me that this is a very real phenomenon. And then also around that same period of time, discovering that another best friend of mine, his mother had a seemingly co-experienced in her dream state her husband's murder and death experience. And as dark and depressing as that might seem, ultimately it was a very transformative and positive experience for her that ultimately led her to not take her life and the life of my eventual friend and yet to be born at that time unborn child of hers. But there's more less extreme examples of dream telepathy and the parapsychological transfer of information in the dream state. But similarly, along those lines, I think we've got this in the where is that? Of course, it's not going to. I don't know if you can hear those blings as I don't find what I'm looking for on this page. But there's a Washington Post article somewhere here on the Flipboard where it goes into somebody who's in hospice, and it's a really touching story. Actually, I think I can show this here, where the writer is apparently the person working in hospice with this individual who has been dealing with, I guess it's colorectal cancer for 4 years. And it's obviously a very difficult and challenging and honorable endeavor to work in hospice, in my opinion. And this person talks about how this person who's been on the verge of death for so long, to the point of contemplating suicide, has perked up this one visit, and in talking to them, asks the question of the hospice worker, "Do you believe in ghosts?" And proceeds to tell him about when he was working in a World War II combat hospital and had an apparition appear, and that this apparition has appeared repeatedly through his life, and had recently appeared again to him. And he had made the discovery that through looking at old photographs in a family album, that this appeared to be somebody from their family who died in the First World War, and who was there apparently to help this person cross over when their time comes. And whatever you think about an afterlife or the true nature of ghosts, and whether what we consider our everyday waking consciousness is something that could explain ghost phenomena, it's these kinds of stories that I find very powerful, and that do seem to intimate this close relationship with the other side that we actually can experience. And anyway, that's surprisingly something over at the WashingtonPost.com, which was not the place I would have expected to see something like that. Anyway, there's a ton of other great articles over at the Flipboard. I did want to draw attention to something I just posted, and that is this article. It's part one of a multi-part series, The Dirty Little Secrets of Twilight Forteans, by my good friend Lauren Coleman over at his Copycat Effect blog. Within the last few days, there has been quite an uproar on social media, and I had seen a post by someone who I respect drawing my attention to a Twitter thread about the dirty little secret that's not a dirty little secret, and that is this idea that there is a particular writer who had a pen name of Jim Brandon, who was actually a well-known anti-Semite and Holocaust denier whose name is Grimstad. This is not some dirty little secret. It's the kind of thing that longtime researchers like myself or Lauren Coleman have known and publicized for a long time. But some people in this current climate of cancel culture and woke, quote unquote, culture have focused on Lauren and others for not doing enough to make newer researchers aware of this. And to me, it's obvious. I obviously support people wanting to make this more widely known, so that people don't necessarily recommend texts that then, when they find out, they will be very disturbed to learn that, oh wait, this person has this checkered past. But anyway, I would encourage folks to go read Lauren's article there. At his copycateffect.blogspot.com, The Dirty Little Secrets of Twilight Forteans Part 1, where he very conscientiously addresses this issue, because he got dragged into it at the end of the year and the beginning of this year by people who were basically chastising him for something that I really don't think they had a full understanding of, and to accuse him, of all people, of promoting this writer's material and thus endorsing these other beliefs is just wrong-headed thinking, in my opinion. But at the same time, again, I think it's important. Yes, Jay Brandon was a Holocaust denier, or still is, I think, if he's still alive. So take his work with a grain of salt, but and scream it from the highest mountains if that's your thing. But anyway, that's just one more thing I really thought people should check out. And without wanting to end on yet another downer note, my good friend Chester Moore out in East Texas, who is an outdoor enthusiast and a cryptozoologist and Bigfoot researcher, and very active Christian, who has created a nonprofit focused on educating children about the outdoors from a religious perspective. But he's one of the better people I've ever met, who's doing good work. And he's written an article, if I could find it here, about these weird horse killings that have been occurring both in East Texas and across the country and in other countries. And this does not appear on first blanch to have to do with what people tend to think of when it comes to quote unquote UFO related cattle mutilations or that kind of thing. Of course, the first famous livestock mutilation case that got connected to UFOs being the Snippy horse killing from back, I think, in the late 60s. But over at his website, highercalling.net, he's got this article, Horse Killings, Is There a Pattern in Texas Cases? And that's obviously a very disturbing subject matter. And he does talk about the fact that, yes, in some countries, obviously, horse meat is considered just another meat to be consumed as protein. But these cases don't always involve the harvesting of the horse after their murder. And he, as a lover of wildlife and the outdoors, is on the case looking into this, and be interesting to see what more develops in that regard. So, Anyway, lots of other weird, crazy articles over at our Flipboard, and you can find the links there to that at anomalyarchives.org. And we are still in the midst of, like I said, trying to find our new location, and we have started packing up the Anomaly Archives and look forward to informing folks where we end up. Hopefully, we'll have some good news on that front very soon. And then, of course, there is now all this amazing content. So if you missed, you don't know what we were talking about when we talked about this fundraiser, the Streamathon. The Streamathon was our emergency fundraiser to help us move into a new location. Well, originally to stay at our current location through these tough times. But there is an amazing amount of content. We're talking 6 to 9 hours a day for 6 days. 6 different Saturdays, starting in November 21st and ending last December 26th. So you can find the links over there to all of these great things. We've got them broken down into playlists by day, or you can look at the master playlist and play from that very first November 21st date all the way through to that Saturday, December 26th date. And there's a ton of great content there. So I hope you'll check that out.
And Miles, there's so much content. I started looking back through Streamathon and was going to take it in chronological order. And then once I realized the sheer volume of content you guys were able to generate through the entire fundraiser, you can literally go by topic of interest for that particular day, because it's such a wide range of interests and knowledge bases that were compiled there. And again, you can go, what you're interested in that day, what your lifelong maybe passion or interest might be. But there's literally something for everybody there. And the way it's organized, you can just go in and you can cherry pick, what's doing it for you that day, or maybe a topic that you came across in the last week or so. But anyway, just super impressive, the amount of content that's available for everybody for free.
Absolutely. And I'm overwhelmed when I think about just how much folks have helped the Anomaly Archives through their participation in this. Just that final day, it also just amazes me how they're kind of developed these themes across each day that I did not engineer, and they just kind of synchronistically emerged this way. There with the last 2 Saturday Streamathons, we had to kind of shuffle some speakers around due to some last minute cancellations and schedule changing. But man, that last day, we had Tim Banal giving a talk about the people of Flat Earth. Unsurprisingly, we have some people who believe in Flat Earth who have posted their not so happy thoughts about his analysis of the scene. But he wasn't trying to convince anybody of anything. He was just giving a history with a little bit of snark because, Yeah. Then we had kind of an informal discussion, me and my friend David Perkins, talking about UFOs and cattle mutilations reconsidered in light of the idea of a Gaian mind, a global superorganism consciousness. Is there something to that? So much more. My 2 Susan friends, Susan Lepselter, Susan Demeter, gave presentations that day. And Stephanie Quick gave a great talk interrogating her near-death experience, the aftermath of mystical awakening. So much great stuff, and really just, like I say, days and days of stuff. You could just get lost in there. So, well, we are just past the half-hour mark, and just past the half-hour mark, Mark.
Goes so fast, doesn't it, Miles? Again, I just want to thank you, everybody. This Flipboard, Miles is the steward of. This last couple of weeks, the fact that you were able to get such a variety of stories in there that are both mutually reinforcing, but then also have their own rabbit holes. Again, folks, this is free. Miles does all this work on the back end for everybody, and I can't tell you how convenient and well studied and the effort that goes into it. Anyway. Great job, Miles, as always.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark. It's great to see you again. And we'll be back next week. And go to the website for more information. Stay tuned.